Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Forum's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Daily Racing Forum handicappers Matt Bernier, Mike Beer, and I will take a look at three major stakes races across the country. The Grade 3 Howell's Hope at Gulfstream Park, the Grade 2 Buena Vista Stakes at Santa Anita, and the Texas Glitter Stakes, a 5-furlong dash for 3-year-olds, also at Gulfstream Park. Both Nicole Russo's pedigree pick segment and Craig Milkowski's Timeform US Pace Projector segment will focus on the Melody of Colors, the 5-furlong turf sprint for 3-year-old fillies at Gulfstream on Saturday. JK's got a Gulfstream Park daily double for his play of the day. David Aragon is looking for value in the second race at Aqueduct on Saturday. Plus, we've got best bets, horses to watch, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Matt Bernier, you found a horse out in Southern California that we should all keep an eye out for.
Yeah, debut 3-year-old filly. Her name is Hard Not to Love. We're going to take a look at her first start. She was victorious in this last weekend. There's some things that you want to know while we take a look at the stretch run. She's trained by John Sheriffs. Now, we know Sheriff's record overall. He's actually pretty good with the first-time starters, but they usually don't show speed. She was a little bit slow out of the gate, but she quickly went right to the front, and she goes on and gets the job done with the 77 Buyer. She's by Hard Spun, but more importantly, she's a half-sister to Wonder Godot, so we know that the main track shouldn't be an issue for her. I'd imagine she can successfully stretch out a little bit more. She earned a 77 here in the career debut, and fun fact, Patch, get out of the way. She has one eye. She is now the darling of the one-eyed horses.
Mike, your Horse Watch returned to form in New York last week in stakes action off a layoff. It appeared all this big mare needed was a little time, love, and tenderness for Linda Rice.
Yeah, a little pace didn't hurt her chances either. I thought it was slim pickings in New York this week as far as horses to watch go, but let's look at Holiday Disguise. This is her first start of the year. We hadn't seen her since the end of last year, where her final start of 2018 left a little to be desired. She didn't look that comfortable on the track. She came back off a layoff here, though, and she was back to her best, I thought, Dan. She got a good trip. She was off the pace, but not outrun early in this race, and she just powers through the stretch. Listen, she's better than these horses. This was a nice step in the right direction for her, though. She didn't have a great year last year. It looks like starting off 2019, though, there could be some better things to come for her.
My Horse Watch just broke her maiden, at Gulfstream Park. Her career debut was at Saratoga last year, and she ran into her uncoupled stablemate, who happened to be Newspaper of Record, who is an absolute freak. In her second start for Chad Brown, Sister Kitten, My Horse Watch, ran at Keeneland, caught a really bogging, yielding turf course. Don't think she liked it. She ran an okay third. She made her seasonal debut off the layoff, going a demanding 9 furlongs at Gulfstream. And as we swing into the stretch, I thought this was a good learning effort because she's squeezing her way in between horses, and then she finishes this race off really well, earning a respectable 78 Buyer speed figure. She's a Ramsey homebred by turf champion Kitten's Joy, the dam's a foal to Unitarian, who won the 2-mile H. Allen Jerkin Stakes, as well as the Grade 2 Elkhorn, and the second dam was a stakes-winning turf router as well, so no surprise that this filly handled the 9 furlong distance, and I think with additional maturity and distance down the road, Sister Kitten might be an important horse to follow for trainer Chad Brown and the Ramseys. Let's get to some handicapping. The feature race at Gulfstream on Saturday is the Howell's Hope. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 3 Howell's Hope Stakes at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, carded as race number 11. It carries a purse of $100,000 and will be contested over a 1-turn mile. For expanded stakes previews of many of the major stakes races all weekend long and lots more, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, the morning line favorite in this race, the number 3 Breaking Lucky, certainly has credentials. Heck, he's a millionaire. He already has a win over track and trip this meet. But I'm interested in your take on his most recent start, where it appeared he only ran in spots. Do you think he just disliked the wet track?
Yeah, I think anybody that likes this horse, you need to bank on that because he's over 3 over the wet surface. But at the end of the day, I wasn't really impressed by that most recent effort in the Hooper. Let's throw it to that replay now. You're going to see him at this point. He's already sort of run in spots. It looked like for a minute rounding the far turn, he was going to finish last. They wheeled him out into the clear, and he comes on again. That, to me, is more an indictment on the rest of this field. And to be honest, if I'm taking anyone out of this field, it's Coppertown for Pletcher, simply because he threw a little bit of a fit in the gate at the beginning of the run, and he may or may not have hit his head. I just don't know that I want anybody else that did any running in here.
Mike, I'm happy that Matt mentioned Coppertown because really his presence in this race begs one of the great handicapping questions of the Howell's Hope, and that's, can he run anymore?
Yeah, I think that is the real question. Matt is correct that he had trouble at the gate last time before the gate opened. He didn't break all that poorly, but before it opened, it looked like he had some trouble in there. He just ran a terrible race last time. To me, he's the kind of horse who, if he's going to be a short price, and I think there could be a chance he's a short price again. I don't think you want any part of this horse at a short price, but if he drifts and he goes off at a square number in this race, I think maybe he's the only horse you want to give one more chance to. We're going to look at a replay of his first start of the year. This is off of a very long layoff. This is actually last October, off of a year-plus layoff. I thought this was a pretty good effort. At least showed he could still run. This is a 101 Beyer speed figure. He didn't break great in this race. He came wide. He just took it over, and he was much the best. And after that, Grade 1 Cigar Mile, where he broke very poorly. And I just thought that running line maybe isn't as bad as it looks. He didn't get a very comfortable trip in that race. And then we just saw the race to Hooper last time, where he didn't run well at all. But to me, if he's mine, Pletcher's got to go into that paddock on Saturday, tell Javier Castellano, put this horse on the front, try and wire this field. If he can still run, this field could be in some trouble.
Matt Todd Pletcher, of course, has Coppertown, but he also has Prince Lucky returning off a lengthy layoff. The one good news for Pletcher fans and for Prince Lucky fans like you is he excels off layoffs.
I mean, the numbers are kind of otherworldly. We know Todd does really, really well with any type of horse, especially down at Gulfstream. But this move in particular is just gangbusters for him. Let's go back to that easy goer that you made mention of, Dan. He's between horses in the blue cap with the white body. He finishes very game in here between Dark Vader and on the outside Rugby Man. You see Rugby Man flailing around on his left lead. I didn't necessarily love this race, but we got to talk about some of the numbers. Pletcher, the past 5 years, dirt winner last out, 180-day layoff or greater. 25 for 51 with a 283 ROI. You add Johnny V, he's 13 for 24 with almost a $3 ROI. It's an instance where I think this is an interesting race, a fun betting race. Don't know how much quality there is in here. I'll take a shot with a horse that might be a decent number with a big formulator effect.
I'm with you. I like Prince Lucky as well and think maybe he can trip out from the outside without getting any dirt in his face. You mentioned those remarkable formulator stats for Pletcher in these situations. I love Prince Lucky around one turn. They tried to run him 2 turns a couple of times last year. That really doesn't seem to be his game. Usually we don't like blanket finishes like we saw in the Easy Goer, but that horse showed a lot of determination and heart. That Rugby Man was leaning all over him in the stretch, and Prince Lucky just refused to let him go by. I think the one turn again is the key. The price is going to be right. I'm with everything Matt says. I'm hoping that maybe Prince Lucky can pull off a mild upset in the Howells Hope Stakes. We've got Nicole Russo with the Pedigree Pick segment. We've got Craig Milkowski with a Timeform U.S. Pace Projector. They're both covering the same race from different angles. It's the Melody of Colors, a turf sprint at Gulfstream.
Hey everyone, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate to take a look at the Melody of Colors Stakes for 3-year-old fillies sprinting on the turf on Saturday at Gulfstream. The highest buyer in the race at 81 belongs to Don't Make Fun by Leading Fire Kitten's Joy, a lady whose offspring prefer to go a touch longer, and the second highest number, 77, is shared by Play On and Beachwood Ella, the latter a daughter of Europe's leading freshman sire No Nay Never, a classy son of Scat Daddy. But I do think this is a wide-open race, and my pedigree analysis is going to focus on the one filly in the race who has never run on the turf, just ate right with Todd Pletcher and John Velasquez teaming up. This filly is unbeaten in 2 starts sprinting on dirt. You'll watch her win her debut here over Queen of Bees, an impressive next-out winner. She then steps up to win an allowance optional event. Why move her to turf off that? Well, maybe this is a spot to get her feet wet in stakes company against moderate competition. Looking at her pedigree, no surprise that the filly has been quick. As sire, Yes It's True has produced the likes of sprint champion La Verdad and Grade 1 winning sprinter The Big Beast. Maybe a little bit of turf in the female family to back that up, as Just Ate Right is out of the unraced Marty Jones mare, Me and Miss Jones. The dam with 4 winners from its many starters, including European turf runner Take Me With You, and finished 3rd in the Group 3 Albany Stakes at the renowned Royal Ascot meeting in a field that included the likes of Alpha Centauri. We're taking you through all of the weekend's action here on Out of the Gate. And next up, we'll get you over to Craig for a look at the Timeform U.S. Pace Projector.
Hi, this is Craig Milkowski at Timeform US for this week's edition of Out of the Gate. This is a segment where I like to take a look at a race with a particular focus on the Timeform US Pace Projector. And today I've chosen the 9th race to be run at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, the Melody of Color Stakes. It's a 5-furlong turf sprint for 3-year-old fillies. What's interesting about this race is that it's coded in blue with us in the Pace Projector, which is basically telling you there's not a whole lot of speed in this race. You don't often see that with younger horses like these 3-year-old fillies, and you especially don't often see it in 5-furlong turf sprints. So let's take a closer look at this race, and we're going to start with the preview page. And I've noted a few things here. You can see in the upper right-hand corner, there's a smaller version of the Pace Projector, which we'll take a closer look at in a second. But you can see the C details is coded in blue, which means we don't think there's a whole lot of speed in here. A few other things worth noting. You can see Ginger Nut, who is going to be the 5 horse in here, has no early or late pace ratings or running styles. That's because she's a shipper coming over from Europe. So we're going to take a closer look at her PPs and her Timeform ratings. A few other things to note, both her and Road Tiger, the 8 horse in here, are both getting Lasix for the first time. Now let's take a closer look at the Pace Projector. And you can see we've highlighted on the bottom left corner that the 5 horse is lacking pace data. So we're not going to have her on the Pace Projector. What I recommend is you read the Timeform extended comments to see what you expect from her. I didn't take too close of a look in here because I don't think she's much of a contender. But again, we will look at her ratings a little bit. You'll notice that we have the 7 and the 9 horse on the lead, and the field's a little bit strung out. Again, pretty rare. So let's take a look at some of these horses that we show in the Pace Projector, starting with the number 7 Question of the Day, who we show in the lead. Now what you'll notice is this horse has run mostly on dirt, and her turf race looks pretty bad. She got a 52 Timeform US speed figure that day, but a closer reading of her past performances, and I think you can draw a line through that race. She was bumped at the start. She was caught 4 wide. You can see the pace was really fast that day. So I'm not going to hold that one too much against her. I definitely think she's going to be a big factor here in this field, and she's probably the one I'm going to wind up betting, particularly if she's anywhere near a morning line of 15 to 1 odds. The next horse who we show second in the Pace Projector is Play On. Play On's only tried to turf once and did in fact win that race. It draws the outside post, which is never bad in these races. You can kind of get your position going into the turn. It does come up a little quicker in these 5-furlong races than you would see in a typical 6-furlong dirt race, for example. But I still don't find that post is too bad, particularly when you have some speed. What I do know, when she won an off-the-turf race last time, and you can see that with the speed figure colored in green, even though it was a dirt race at 91 that we show, is she set a really slow pace. She was 3 to 5 that day. You can see the fractions in blue. So I don't really think this horse is a true front runner. I think she just kind of inherited that day, and I think she's likely to revert to the style that won her the turf race, where she ran that 96, and she did show speed, but she sat just off of it. So I think that is probably where she's going to be in here. A few others I want to take a look at. There's the Todd Pletcher train, Don't Make Fun. I think I got that wrong. Don't Make Fun is actually the 6th horse in here. We'll move on to the Todd Pletcher trained horse next. Don't Make Fun is a morning line favorite here. She's the horse who has the best Timeform US speed figure. She's probably going to take a decent amount of money in here. I'm just a little leery of her with her style, that she doesn't show a whole lot of speed. She certainly can win here, but I think we're going to find value in the horses that I expect a little closer up. Now we'll move on to that Todd Pletcher horse, Just Ain't Right, who's undefeated in 2 starts, both on the dirt. Again, this is another one who, it wouldn't surprise me if she won. She certainly could run well on turf. She draws an inside post, showing plenty of speed. Her speed figures are competitive. So again, no shock if she wins, but in a race that's wide open like this, I think you got to look for a price, and I think you got to look for horses that are going to be favored by the pace scenario. The last horse I do want to look at is that horse Ginger Nut I mentioned earlier, who's shipping in from England. She's run several times in here. I just took a She's actually has 8 starts, as you can see at the top. I just took her last several to show here. We use her time form ratings for shippers, which getting first-time Lasix, she certainly could be a contender in here. But generally, I'm against horses shipping in from Europe to come here to sprint. They tend to do much better when they're routing. I don't think sprinting is a strong suit overseas in Europe, particularly England and Ireland, as it is here. So I'm going to be against this one, particularly at her 4-1 morning line. So just to recap real quick, I definitely think this is a wide open race, as 5 furlong turf sprints tend to be. I'm going to lean on the number 7 horse that we predict to get the early lead, question of the day. And I'm going to play her with play on the number 9. Looking for some value in here. Won't be surprised if I don't cash, but that's the way it goes in horse racing sometimes. You got to make the best bets. That's it this week for Timeform US, and I'll see you again next week.
Are you a horse player looking to raise your game? For over 120 years, expert handicappers have relied on Daily Racing Form as their must-have source for news and data, featuring exclusive buyer speed figures, Timeform US pace figures, and integrated replays. DRF Formulator is the most powerful handicapping tool on the market today. Use what the pros use. Go to drf.com/formulator and enter code DRFTV to get your first card free. DRF.com. Raise your game.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's throw up the field for Saturday's DRF Bets race of the day. It's the Grade 2 Buena Vista Stakes, going 1 mile on the turf, carded as race number 8. $200,000 is the purse. You can access free Formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com, and for expanded stakes previews of all the major races this weekend and lots more, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike, you don't need a Timeform US pace projector to figure out who's going to make the lead in this race. That's going to be the very speedy Fahan Moura, and we can just draw a line to the most recent race.
Yeah, she should be out there strutting her stuff on the front end here. She cuts back to a mile. It's a good distance for her. You can, as you say, put a line through the last race. She was a no-hoper at Gulfstream Park, where she finished last. But let's go 2 back on her card. This is her last start in Southern California. This is the Grade 3 Robert Frankel Stakes. And this is when she's good, this is what she does. She goes right to the front. I gave her a little extra credit for this win because it's 1 1/8, and that could be a little bit far for her. But she's going to manage to hang on at the end. Cutting back to a mile helps her. There is other pace in this race, so we'll see how comfortable she can get. But she's clearly much more dangerous at a mile in Southern California.
Matt, Fahan Moura is the one to catch. The one to beat is the morning line favorite Vasilika, the current queen of the division. She's only won something like 11 of her last 13.
Yeah, she's rock solid. There's really nothing to knock about her. She's got some versatility. Allendorfer just has her continuing to roll along. I have to be honest, I kind of feel like if you were going to beat her, maybe last time was the time, first off the bench. Let's show the replay. At the end of the day, it didn't matter. She comes widest and fastest of all, and you see a couple other common foes in here, Ms. Bad Behavior and Zafina. Maybe Zafina of these 3 is sort of the fresh face or the interesting opinion if you want to try to beat Vasilika. But at the end of the day, she just looks like she's strictly the horse to beat, both on figures and class. I just think she's got a pretty strong hand in here.
And it appears there will be some pace. The mile is no problem for her, and like Fahan Moura, she has an enviable record at Santa Anita. Mike, last year Chad Brown found the spots for Elysia's World at Monmouth. Last time out, they ran her up at Woodbine. I don't think she likes any kind of give in the ground, which was what makes her very interesting in Southern California, where they usually have firm ground. She was purchased by for $500,000 at public auction over the winter.
Yeah, firm ground's definitely going to help her, and she's just, you know, a lot like the horses we have already talked about, Fahan Moura, Vasilika. I don't know, you kind of want new faces when you come out to these Southern California graded stakes races in this division. Elysia's World's the new face. She was a pretty good horse on the East Coast for Chad Brown. She'll make her Southern California debut off the trainer change, Richard Baltus. We're going to go back to 2 starts back on her card at Monmouth Park, the Violet Stakes, the Grade 3. This is, you say, Dan, a firm ground. She got a clean trip from off the pace. Not a strong field here. She's just going to mow them down in the stretch. This is what you want to see her doing on Saturday if you think she's going to be able to go with these horses. Catch some pace, get out into the clear, and then rally through the stretch. She has a really strong kick when she can get it into gear.
I'm with Matt on this one. Not much price on Vasilika, but I can't knock anything she's done in her career. She's just so consistent. She finishes off all of her races, and I do believe there will be enough pace, and I think there's one more for her at a relatively short price, unfortunately, in the Buena Vista. Vasilika will be my top selection. We'll move back back to Gulfstream Park, but will turn back in distance. The Texas Glitter Stakes for 3-year-old turf sprinters is up next. 3-year-olds go 5 furlongs on the turf in race number 12 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Let's throw up the field for the Texas Glitter Stakes. $75,000 is the purse. Wide open field to be sure. For expanded stakes previews, please visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike, you like a 20-1 shot on the morning line. Crosstown shootout, trying turf for the first time.
Yeah, trying turf for the first time, but he's got pedigree to handle this surface, which he's bred for grass. He's won a couple of starts already on a synthetic surface, so I'm not going to worry about the grass. This to me was just more of a situation where the shorter price horses didn't do a lot for me. I think they all still have a lot to prove. And this horse, coming off a little bit of a layoff, ran some good races as a 2-year-old. We're going to go 2 starts back on his card. This is his second career start and second career win. I liked this effort for him just because there was a little bit of pace, but he didn't get outrun in this race. He managed to keep the leaders in his sights. He got right on top of them at the top of the stretch, and he will go on from there to a pretty easy win. His next start, they tried a stakes race with him. He was in against a very good horse and Big Drink of Water. I'm not going to hold that race against him. If he handles turf, I think this is the kind of race where he could make a little bit of noise at a price. I just don't like the favorites that much.
And he might get a little bit of pace up front, partly because, Matt, your top selection, when he gets out of the gate, is very, very fast, and he's getting back to doing what he wants, sprinting on the turf.
Well, with the Gladiator King, I mean, this is one of those instances. You have a nice little turf horse. He wins his maiden turf sprinting, comes back. We're going to take a look at this run right now. This is his first start against winners, turf sprinting on the outside. He gets the job done. So what's the next logical move? We're going to go 1 1/8 on dirt in New York. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense when you see what this horse has done on turf. I think he's a nice little runner. Again, he's got some mechanical things that he needs to work out. And Dan, you brought up his gait issues recently, but he's been running in ridiculous spots. Finally get him back to something that he may or may not want to do when it's all said and done. I think this is his best opportunity to succeed. Will it happen? Who knows? But he's got a better chance of winning here than he did in the Holy Bull at 200-1.
I was impressed with the career debut of the 4, Yes, I Am Free, who will make start number 2 in the Texas Glitter against a familiar rival, the number 5 Stand Up for Todd Pletcher. Let's turn into the stretch of their race on January the 17th. And Yes, I Am Free is on the inside. He's been battling throughout with the favorite in the race, while you see Stand Up far, far back. Yes, I Am Free is going to win the duel. He's going to put this favorite away. He's going to go on to win. And you're going to see Stand Up, the half-brother to Kobe's back, come flying late. Yes, I Am Free, I think, has more tactical speed than Stand Up. I didn't notice in any sort of a gait issue or breaking poorly with Stand Up in that race. Maybe he's just a little bit, needs a little bit more ground and just doesn't have as much tactical speed as Yes, I Am Free. I'm hoping Yes, I Am Free can shake loose once again for trainer Mark Casse. I like that he won the duel and he won the war in the maiden race. He's 2-1 on the morning line, or at Ortiz, the way he's riding right now, really doesn't help the price. JK's play of the day, a daily double wager at Gulfstream Park. David Aragona of Timeform US looks for value in race number 2 at Aqueduct. Let's go to those segments right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. Head down to South Florida. Gulfstream Park has a couple of cool stakes going on there. We're going to start this play. It's a daily double play. We're going to start it in race 11 in the House Hope. There's only 2 horses that I need here. One of them coming out of the same race, the 3 Breaking Lucky, ran well that day, ran second in the slop on Pegasus Day. But then the sneakier one for me is the 7 Coppertown. The horse, if you watch the head on, kind of hit his head on the gate, had some gate issues. And they didn't, I thought maybe they could have scratched the horse or backed the horse out. They didn't really do either one of those things. They just kind of put the jockey back on and went on with it. And I think that can kind of be a little bit of a hidden trip when a horse kind of bangs his head on the gate. And I think Coppertown, who's always been meant to be a good horse, I think he'll run better today. The only 2 that I'm going to use in that spot, like I mentioned, Breaking Lucky and Coppertown. And then on to race 12, the Texas Glitter. It's a turf sprint. A lot of people get a little bit weary of turf sprints. I love them myself. There's 2 horses I'm going to use here only. The 4, Yes, I'm Free. Ran a nice figure last time. First out for Mark Casse was 9-1 that day. Irad Ortiz is obviously riding out of his mind right now, winning every race, winning 6, winning 3, winning 4. I think he'll be riding with a lot of confidence in this spot with a horse that's going to be forwardly placed that has a lot of room to improve second start of his career. And then the 5, Stand Up. The only thing about Stand Up, he was a little bit slow out of the gate last time. He's going to be closing. I'm not crazy about closers on the turf, but this one ran so good last time. Closers and turf sprints. But this one ran so good last time, I think it'd be dangerous to leave him off. I'm probably going to press my opinion a little bit more. If you're working on a $100 budget, I might spend $40 on doubles with into Yes I Am Free, and maybe 20 or a little bit less on stand-up. So weigh that according to your opinion, or use them equally if you think they have an equal shot. Good luck, and we'll see you next week.
Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona for this week's Timeform US Spotlight. I want to take a look at the second race on Saturday at Aqueduct. This is a maiden race for New York breds going 6 furlongs, 3-year-old fillies, and this is a really interesting race for trip handicappers to dig into, because you've got 4 horses that I want to talk about, all coming out of the same race, and they all had very different trips, and I think it's worth discussing. We'll start off by looking at the Timeform US pace projector. The number 6 horse, Jay's Malibu, is predicted to be out on the front end, and she's just a really quick filly who hasn't quite gotten done in her first 3 starts, but she shows a lot of speed. She's only predicted to be just ahead of a Willoway, though, who was chasing her last time, as well as the number 3 horse, Whale and Josie. You've got a couple of first-time starters in this field, so I'm not sure how instructive this pace projector really is, given all the uncertainty and the lightly raced nature of all of the horses in the race, but I think it is worth being aware of the fact that Jay's Malibu is predicted to be faster than this field. Taking a look at Jay's Malibu's PPs, she's a 9-5 favorite on the morning line. She's just run the fastest recent speed figures, and she's going to be very tough if she repeats her last race, but that is a big if, because you see that pink color-coded race rating box on the left-hand side of her past performances for that February 3rd effort, and that indicates that speed did relatively well that day at Aqueduct. Now, when you see something like that, there's often some underlying reason why that was the case, and if you watch all of the races on February 3rd at Aqueduct, you'll notice that horses that rode the rail did exceptionally well throughout the day. You just had to be riding the rail to have any real chance at finishing in a top position that day at Aqueduct, and Jay's Malibu got the absolutely perfect trip on that kind of track because she was fast enough to make the early lead. Her rider Ruben Silvera got her right over to the inside, and she just rode the rail for the entire race, whereas everybody else had to kind of come off the rail to try to go around her in the stretch. She just got nailed on the wire by a horse that also rode the rail and just angled wide to pass her late. But Jay's Malibu really had the benefit of everything going her way last time, and I'm a little skeptical that she can fend off the other speeds in this race and still be as effective over a fair racetrack, assuming that's what we have on Saturday. So I'm using her defensively, but I think she's a favorite that you want to try to beat. A Willoway is a horse that's a little bit interesting because on the surface of things you might say, oh, well, she chased outside against Jay's Malibu last time on that rail bias track, and her debut speed figure makes her one of the horses to beat in this race. I mean, she's run arguably one of the faster races in the race if that 91 Timeform US speed figure that she got in her debut is repeated here. The problem is that I'm a little bit skeptical of the speed figures assigned to that January 11th race, whether it be the Buyers or the Timeform US numbers. Just that race seems a little bit too fast for the horses involved. The winner Flush made a huge speed figure improvement when she won that race, and all of the horses behind her were first-time starters, a couple of which have since come back to run and just run a little bit slower, so I'm just not totally convinced that that speed figure is completely legitimate. And while I'm using this filly because she was against the bias last time, she's another relatively short price in this race, and there are 2 others coming out of that race, that February 3rd event, that I think are a little bit more interesting. One of those is the number 7, Today Comes Once, and just on the surface of things, when you watch that race, you might think, oh, well, this filly was rallying wide in the stretch, so she's the one that I want. She was a first-time starter, she broke a little bit slowly, and she might have had the toughest trip. And, I'm not totally against that point of view, but I think you do have to be aware with this filly that she was on the rail for about the first half of the race, and I think that really, when you watch races from February 3rd, horses that rode the rail early were able to come off the rail in the stretch and still make effective runs, and I think that's what Today Comes Once did. This filly has a little bit of ability. I liked her 2-year-old sales workout at the OBS sale back in April. I thought she showed a nice stride that day for a daughter of cross traffic. And I'm not going to be surprised if she improves second time out for Gary Contessa. There's just one other horse in this race that is more interesting to me, and that's the number 8 Alpha Dora. And, her running line kind of mirrors that of Today Comes Once, in that they both were running kind of alongside each other for much of the race and finished just a half length apart. But when you actually watch the race, I think that Alpha Dora actually got the tougher trip, because she was, very wide on the backstretch. You see the short comments in Time Form US PPs, which are a little bit expanded from what you see in like a Formulator or the DRF Classic PPs. She was 6 wide on the backstretch, 4 wide around the far turn. If you look at Trackers figures, she covered more ground than most of the field. She did angle over towards the inside at the quarter pole, but to me that's almost irrelevant, because she lost so much ground early and was so against the part of the grain of the track when she was, rounding the far turn and losing ground to those horses, that I think, there's no way that she could have just been so energized by racing on the rail late, and that's why she finished, 4th in this race at a big price. So I think Alpha Dora is going to be the biggest price by far of all of the runners coming out of this race, and to me, she's the most interesting. So if she takes a big step forward, I think she can be very competitive with this field, and we're going to get a price on her for low-profile connections. So Alpha Dora, number 8, is my pick in the second race at Aqueduct on Saturday. Now let's send it back to the studio.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Matt, we're looking for 2 in a row. No one will make fun of your top pick.
I hope not. We'll find out what happens here. This is a little bit of a dangerous area for me. Turf sprints, usually not my cup of tea, but the 9th at Gulfstream on Saturday, I think it's an interesting one. It's the Melody of Colors, and I like the 6 horse in here, Don't Make Fun. Let's go back to her maiden score. This is her most recent start. And look, it's probably... let's say it's unspectacular. Visually, I think she's just professional. I don't think it's going to wow you at all, and I think there's some other girls in this race that maybe visually are more impressive, but I liked everything that this girl did in here. She's the son of Kitten's Joy, or a daughter of Kitten's Joy, excuse me, and from a numbers standpoint, I think she makes the most sense in the race. She's 6-1 on the morning line. She has the highest last out buyer in the field with an 81, highest last out raw time form rating of a 103. To me, it's one of those instances, don't overthink it. If she's got the numbers, take her at a decent number.
Mike, slim pickings at Aqueduct this weekend. You're going down to Gulfstream. Yeah,
race number 6 is an entry-level allowance race, 1 mile on the turf. I'm going to try and get penalty to fire off the layoff for Bill Mott. This horse ran twice on turf last year, the first time in a race that was slow early and fast late. He could only be second that day. And then this race here back in June we're going to look at now. This is a really good field and a race that was very strongly run from start to finish. They went a good pace early. They came flying home late. You can see penalties and a little bit of traffic here in the stretch. He's not totally stopped, but he's in tight between. Storming past him on the outside is Raging Bull, a really good horse for Chad Brown. Penalty's got no chance to kick with him, but he will run at the end. He gets up for 3rd. I thought this was a good performance. He's 12-1 on the line off the layoff here. If he can fire off the bench for Mott, this is not a strong field for a non-winner 1 allowance.
I'm hoping I don't go broke on Saturday, because I want to have some money left over for Sunday's 8th race at Sunland Park. It's the Island Fashion Stakes, sort of the local prep race for the Sunland Park Oaks, and Jamaican Sense is going to be my top selection, breaking from the inside. This is a daughter of Golden Sense out of a dam that was grade 1 placed going 7 furlongs, and I really liked her career debut at Sunland 20 days ago. Let's watch the race right now. They turn into the stretch. That's the favor on the outside, and Jamaican Sense has been battling throughout. She's going to put this more experienced favorite away, turning into the lane, and I kind of like the way she finished this race off. We know Golden Sense was a crack miler. When we look at this female family, it's of grade 1 stakes winner Stop Traffic, the dam of Whitney winner Cross Traffic, and best of all, Jamaican Sense, while she does have to stretch out a 1/4 mile for start number 2, she draws an inside post in a race with not a lot of other speed. I think Jamaican Sense can steal away to the lead in here, and hopefully her classy pedigree and a build-up off that performance in the debut makes her tough. She's 15-1 on the morning line. I'm not sure we'll get that, but maybe we'll take half. 7.5 to 8-1 sounds good on the 1. Jamaican Sense, Sunday's 8th race at Sunland Park. We thank you for watching Out of the Gate, and we urge you to follow all of DRF TV's latest offerings on social media. Follow on Twitter at DRF Video, and for the latest news and notes from America's Turf Authority Daily Racing Form, follow on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.